Hello, everyone, and welcome into this episode of the Irish NFL Show with me, Colum Cronin. And I am delighted to be joined by a fellow Corkonian, a good friend of the show, and somebody who has changed profession since we were last speaking, but remains a committed Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Joanne O'Riordan, how you doing?
Not too bad. I think misery might be my middle name at this stage. So yeah, it's been an exciting 24 hours I think as a Pittsburgh fan. So yeah, officially a new offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith. So yeah, we shall see what the future holds, I guess.
Yeah, just I suppose on that side of things, like being a Steelers fan over the past year, right? Like in particular. So, I mean, from the outside, everybody always looks at it and they say Mike Tomlin never had a losing season. Surely Steelers fans must be happy. But then I see on Twitter two sides of it. Some Steelers fans who are and kind of are saying, look, we are where we are. Mike Tomlin's making the best of what he has, and others kind of saying, well, look, this is a storied franchise. You can't just keep treading water. We're not going anywhere with Kenny Pickett. And obviously, things got particularly bad under Matt Canada and actually nearly got worse when he went. What was it like for you in terms of the season watching the Steelers, Joanne?
Yeah, it was definitely a tough one. I think for Pittsburgh fans all around. I think there's just this kind of frustration that the likes of T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, and all these boys, their prime is kind of it's moving fast. Like I mean, sport, the NFL in particular it's a very short career. That you have, and you want to maximize what you possibly can out of possibly what is the most exciting defense from a particular perspective. And I suppose the likes of Cam Hayward as well. You just want the likes of them to kind of ride off into the sunset. On a very positive note. And I think, I can understand the frustration with Mike Tomlin and with, the Steelers fans and stuff like that. I suppose I'm very much a romantic in that I would like for someone like Mike Tomlin, who's given quite a lot of his life, to the Steelers organization, and has, I suppose, look, the undefeated season is something that's thrown about time and time again, but it is very impressive when you consider the very short time that's now afforded to managers to try and build a project and develop, like nonstop. I think there was a few, offensive coordinating hires that particularly weren't very good in the last couple of years. Whoever you want to blame for that is entirely up to you, I guess. Todd Haley was quite, he was all right, in fairness to him, but he just didn't get on with Big Ben, and Big Ben called the shot there, So it was just a tough time, and I suppose with Matt Canada, things were just very dull. Like you could predict what was going to happen. You were just watching the team going, oh no. And it just felt like whoever you put in there as quarterback, even if you put in probably Tom Brady, he'd be like, look, just throw it out wide and we hopefully get a yards after catch here. You're like, no, that's not, everyone knows. So yeah, I guess, from Pittsburgh perspective, Arthur Smith, he developed Derrick Henry into a top quality running back, over in Tennessee. I'm sure when I text my friends, oh, I was like, in my head crying, going, Ryan Tannehill was actually not bad. She was like, it's bad when you're saying Ryan Tannehill is okay. But look, we'll see what happens. Ideally for me, I'd like for Eddie Sullivan to stay on as quarterback coach just for that consistency for Kenny Pickett, because I don't think it's fair to expect him in his second or third year to learn a whole new offense again and expect him to come out as prime time Kenny. But look, we shall see. I think what was very frustrating from my perspective, and look, it's not fair to single out players. I get that. But I think when you saw Mason Rudolph kind of doing what he was doing and doing it okay, you were thinking, oh man, there's a lot of cap space wasted now by poor Mitchell Trubisky. But you can understand why he's there, because maybe Mitchell Trubisky is like mentally like Tony Romo, a great quarterback, but can't really deliver it, And you're like, please. So yeah, it's different times for sure, and hopefully, I mean, you even saw towards the end, Mike Tomlin went in a couple of times onto the field to try and hype up the offense, being like, it's fine, we'll just go again. Which speaks to the man that he is. That he was like, look, I'll just take over for now. But yeah, it's tough. But ideally, yeah, I would like Eddie to stay on as quarterback just for that consistency.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's funny though the mention of Roma. I was listening to the Mina Kimes podcast this morning. She had Dominic Foxworth on. They were talking about uh, Brock Purdy and maybe who he reminded them of. And Dominique says Tony Romo, except he's got a better arm. Oh, and he's better with his feet. So Tony Romo with a better arm and uses his feet, which sounds like a completely different quarterback. But there you go. And I suppose, look, you mentioned that Brock Purdy brings us to the Super Bowl, which by the time this goes out will probably be just over a week away or thereabouts. We got the Chiefs against the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan looking to, I suppose, exorcise demons from the past, a few Super Bowls, and kind of get his first title. And obviously the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes looking to cement themselves as the new dynasty in town. But you have I suppose a competition, a contest that takes place in relation to the Super Bowl that sounds pretty intriguing. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I guess this kind of started as a bit of a joke between myself and a buddy of mine. We consistently do dares in terms of AFC versus NFC, in terms of what we should do to maybe just get each other a bit more hyped, for the Super Bowl and staying up, beyond 3, 4 a.m. and getting up for work the following day. So my friend Aisha, her very, very first Super Bowl actually was the infamous 28-3 game, that all those many moons ago, what feels like a long time ago. And she still laughs at the fact her first question was, "Oh, they switch sides after quarters," and I was like, "Yeah, like what do you expect here?" But she's a diehard Packers fan now, and yeah, I think what we decided to do was we just pick AFC versus NFC, and whatever happens, happens. So initially, what it started as was the Patriots and the Eagles. I obviously had the Patriots against my will. She had the Eagles against her will. And what we did was we did a series of dares because I was going to visit her. And I'm petrified of birds. So we decided if the Eagles win, I had to visit the bird sanctuary over where she lives and meet an eagle called Shadow. Spoiler alert, Shadow eagles specifically don't like seeing their reflection. And he saw the reflection of himself in my chair. And I'll definitely send you that funny picture that they got of me nearly crying next to Shadow the eagle as he was nearly crying. And she was like, "Look, maybe giving each other heart attacks isn't actually worth it in the end." So we decided to pick a bunch of charities, kind of play around with a few things. So this year we decided for AFC versus NFC, we would pick, so from the AFC perspective, it's the Cliona Foundation, which is based in Limerick. So the Cliona Foundation is basically a foundation for kind of parents of sick kids and their families. So it started in, oh God, I'm with the foundation now nearly 10 years. And basically what it is their young daughter was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. And they still had bills to pay, even though their child was sick, they still had things to do, pay for accommodation, sleep in the car, when she was going for surgeries and stuff like that. So they decided, every focus is kind of on the sick child, and rightly so, but there's no focus on the parent and the families who are behind the sick child. So I suppose what they do is they help, paying off for accommodation, maybe some bills or, mortgage payments that you may have, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's an incredible foundation. I was there last week, and there was over 200 people at a breakfast event that they were hosting with Caroline Curran and myself. So yeah, it was really, really fun. And I suppose from the NFC perspective, my friend, since she's based in the UK, she picked Together for Short Lives. I suppose an organization as well that does help sick kids, in a really trying time of their lives, and trying to see. I suppose I was one of those, kids when I was in hospital over 10 years ago, looking for back surgery. And, it's a bleak time, and you kind of have to be positive, but, you kind of have to be realistic at the same time. And, it's tough, it's absolutely tough for everyone. So we decided this year we would do an AFC versus NFC playoff. So if you're an NFC fan, whatever team that is, from your Packers to your Niners to your, sorry for the Detroit Lions fans along the way. If you're an AFC fan like myself, you're a Steelers, Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Jets, whoever it may be, we encourage you to donate to the opposing foundation. So as I said, for the AFC, it's for the Cliona Foundation, and for the NFC, it's Together for Short Lives. So yeah, we hope to get people involved. We hope to raise a good bit of money, for these foundations and these very worthy causes.
Yeah, I think the idea. I mean, the dare sounded absolutely hilarious, but obviously, I think this is a more worthy and worthwhile project. And I guess you can look at it two ways. It gives you the opportunity to potentially soften the blow of your rivals winning a championship, and obviously, as a Broncos fan, seeing the Chiefs go to Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl, it would be nice to have something to soften the blow. So delighted that you are providing this public service. I think that's a good way of calling it. Having had our fellow Corkonian Gary Murphy on with me last week to talk about his Lions, maybe this will help ease some of the pain, though maybe Ben Johnson coming back might help that as well. And I suppose like in terms of you mentioned there your work with the Cliona Foundation. Have you managed to convince anyone else involved there to get interested in American football, or will you be looking to do that, Joanne?
I've definitely forced them anyway to get a bit more excited about the Super Bowl. I think when you sell it as Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce to a couple of the women who are involved in the foundation, you're getting a lot of interest there. Now, I have to say, one of them in particular is she's calculating times between Tokyo and Vegas. I mean, who says leaving Start Mats was ever going to come back into your life? But we find ourselves in that situation. So yeah, I think it's actually funny. I think it's actually becoming more mainstream. Funnily enough, especially over here with people who necessarily wouldn't have had a clue. I mean, but what I got into it maybe 10 years ago now, maybe more, 12 years ago at this stage, and you nearly have to beg people to stay up with you. And now there's people actually saying, "Oh, let's stay up, like let's do fun." And I suppose it's trying to tap into that interest and, as you said, soften the blow for a couple of people. I know for a fact if it was the Baltimore Ravens, that were in the Super Bowl final, I'd have a very tough time supporting the AFC. And I would nearly be begging my friend, let's do a trade for 1 year only. No, I won't hang out with Ravens this year. So yeah, it's actually it's a fun little way, and I suppose it is kind of big in the NFL. You see, when the Bills lost out there against the Chiefs, you saw the Bills fans donating to the Kickers cat organization, which was very nice. I mean, how are you going to deny sick and homeless cats the right to life because your kicker missed in a very sad way? So yeah, as you said, it's just a way to kind of soften the blow, and more importantly, I think generate a bit of publicity and a bit of interest, in these foundations. If people want to obviously get involved, they absolutely can. I know it's tough times and inflation, stuff like that for everyone. I see it every day in my new line of work. So yeah, it's if you can't donate, great. If you can't, that's absolutely fine. Just spread the word to your friends, and generate a bit of interest and see what these organizations do to help some of our most vulnerable people who probably need our help the most.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll make sure to stick the links for both cleaners and for Together for Short Lives into the show notes for this episode. And as you said, like whatever people can give, there is no maximum, but equally no minimum. So perhaps for the price of a cup of coffee, you can get involved in this, and make yeah, watching your rivals hoist the Lombardi at 3 or 4 in the morning, you can know that you have had some good to do on it. um I suppose I have been asked a number of times, Joanne, to get you out of here on this over the past week, on people kind of obviously back home, kind of aware that I'm heading off to Vegas. And I think there is a growing awareness of the sport, and the fact that games are being played internationally. And I got asked on 96 FM by the Echo and by the Avenue, could we someday see a game in Porky Queeve? Could you see that happening? Would you like to see that happen? Would Frank Murphy be there for opening kickoff?
Colum, as you know now, it's Super Value Parky Queeve. So let's try and not fuel another debate here on the Irish NFL show here. I mean, it would be mad, to say the least. I mean, listen, it's hosted a rugby match. It's got one of the biggest pitches, second biggest, ground in Ireland. I wouldn't see why not. And Colum, as we both know, there's 30 million reasons why that will be a great idea. Specifically, 30 million. But yeah, I think I'd love it. It will be so fun. I suppose Croke Park is kind of the big one. That Steelers particularly want to hit. But listen, if I only have to travel an hour up the road, to see my beloved Steelers, what a great day, for all involved. And get a couple of Clonakilty sausages in as well. It's not a bad way to spend a day, is it? It's not a bad day at all.
I I mean, Germany do it in two cities. They switch back and forth. It's a long time, but Porky Queeve did host Michael Jackson. He stayed in the Silver Springs, apparently back in the day. So there's no reason why it couldn't happen at some point in the future. Joanne, want to thank you for taking the time to join me today again to give a shout out to Cliona's and to Together for Short Lives. We'll include the link to those in the show notes. I think it's a fantastic and a worthwhile cause, and kudos to you for coming up with the idea. And hopefully, we'll have the opportunity to chat to you again in the not too distant future.
Fingers crossed. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I still wear that hat every single day when I'm out walking the dog. So enjoy.
Thanks.